Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Studio 6 Paranormal Publication, or Publications, yeah, I'm such an idiot. Studio 6 Paranormal Podcast. Let's just go with that. That works. All right. And you got my co-host Shane Peak with me.
Hey.
How are you?
Doing great.
Good. So, we have a fantastic guest on tap for this evening, Dan Norvell, and we also have Larry Eissler III from Expedition Entity. And to be honest with you, this is something that's been in the works for a while. So I'm excited about having these guys on and talking with them and talk about what they got going on and some of the things that they've done. And I know that they recently won an award that was fantastic for one of their documentaries. So without further ado, let's get these guys on.
All right.
Hey, guys.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hey, guys. So how's it going?
It's a little cold, but it's going.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
right?
It's a little cold, yeah.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, who watch my show or watch our show and talk about, we talk about the paranormal a lot, and actually, I'm really thrilled, and I know Shane is too, that we finally got you guys on.
Oh yeah,
and
that's cool.
It's just a really cool feeling to be able to finally get you guys. So I wanted to kind of just say thank you for what you guys do, because I've seen a lot of your content on Paraflix, and you guys do some fantastic documentary work, and it's amazing, and I know that you guys recently won an award for that. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I will let Larry field the award stuff.
Okay.
All right, that's fine. So as of right now, if you go to the Expedition Entity IMDb page, we have 19 wins and 10 nominations.
Wow.
For Indie Film Festival awards, ranging from Best Web Series, Best Documentary, Best Editing, Best Director, Best Producer. Jen got one for Best Supporting Actress, and then everything in between. So this season of Expedition Entity, specifically the Broadhead episode, which is the one that we've been submitting to festivals, has just blown everything out of the water that we've done previously.
That's cool.
So for us who put in all the hours and all the watching a video, and I'll send it to Dan, I'll be like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? So all of a sudden have everybody go, yeah, this is great, I love it. It's still kind of mind-blowing a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, that to me would be just amazing in itself. I mean, just to be able to be recognized for that hard work that you guys do. Now, is that something that you guys wanted to do as a team or individual, that you wanted to do a little bit more of a documentary style for your show? Or
Dan, why don't you go ahead and talk about our progression?
Well, back in 2015, I contacted Larry. We had been working together since about 2010, late 2009, 2010. And Larry had taken a little break from the paranormal, and I was still going strong at the time. And, he called me and he said, hey, I'd kind of like to step back into something. And, what do you think? What do you think we should do? And I said, well, funny you should ask. I said, I've been kicking the show around in my head, and I want to call it Expedition Entity. I want to go to the lesser well-known places that, guys, everybody can go to Waverly Hills. Everybody can go to, all these big haunted places, and we all know they're haunted. Now would I love to go to them? Absolutely. But I don't need to go there to prove that they're haunted. It's been proven time and time again.
Sure.
We were interested in the places nobody knows about, and showing that there can be hauntings anywhere and everywhere. And if you've noticed, now that we're into season 3, Larry and I have caught just as much stuff in the broad daylight as we ever have at night. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look at the episode that came out last night.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
That's all daytime.
yeah.
Yeah, I do a
Yeah,
lot of
that-
daytime investigation.
That was at a camp, was it? It was at a
It's an abandoned
Was that-
scout.
scout camp, right? Right.
Which
Now, how did
whole
that come
area's
on?
got some really messed up history too.
yeah.
So how did you guys come onto that? How did that come onto your radar?
Well, funny enough,
Um,
I actually filmed a student film project there
Yeah,
3 years ago.
Okay.
yeah.
So, we already had an idea of what it took to get a camera out there. But this is more than just one guy with the camera, and it was a lot of work, a lot more work than I thought it'd be.
The bad thing, the downside of it is now we have a crew and we have to get a lot more equipment out there. Not all of it, but a lot more equipment out there to make it look presentable. And then we have this big honking snowstorm on top of it.
Oh no.
So during the episode, when Jen and Larry are doing S-box, or not an S-box session, but a Ghost Box
SB7.
session,
Yeah.
SB7, you can see behind them, it's just snowing like all get out. Yeah, it was bad. And the bad thing is we had to get it shot that day because we had all taken off of work. We had all
Right.
made sure that we were going to be there.
Mhm.
And looking back, shame on Larry and I for not calling it off. And in all
Yeah.
honesty, because
Yeah, because Jen and I had to drive very far to go home. She lives in Wisconsin. I live an hour or so away, and we were driving home in the snowstorm.
Wow.
So
Wow.
what is normally like 63 miles an hour was down to like 33 miles an hour.
Oh no.
And I'm like, oh, please, please, please.
You
It worked
gotta love
out.
you gotta love the Midwest weather and the winter weather. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
awful.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think, what was it, Dan? The weekend before, it was like 40 and clear.
Yeah.
it was 45 and clear.
Yeah.
And
Right.
the thing about Expedition Entity is when you guys see the episodes, you're only seeing a small part of what we actually shoot.
Right.
And
Oh,
then,
of course.
the other big thing is Jen and Steve are only there for the investigation. People
Yeah.
don't realize that Larry and I go to these places and shoot B-roll. We have to shoot interviews. We have to do
Right.
Sure.
Right.
all sorts of different stuff. And, we're putting in a lot of hours so that when you guys finally see the finished product, it's presentable and it looks
Right.
good.
Right.
Sure.
Right. Right. Yeah, there's a lot of work into going into the editing and all that. And Larry, I'm assuming that you do all the editing.
Sadly.
Oh,
Sadly, on average, every episode is around a terabyte of raw footage.
Oh my.
And then there is about an hour and a half of interview footage, about 45 minutes of B-roll, which includes the drone shots.
yeah.
Right.
And then the investigation footage, which takes place across up to 4 cameras, can be anywhere between 8 to 16 hours of footage.
Wow.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
that's
I'm
audio.
using my sensor board.
Audio is all separate, so audio's got to be gone through separately too.
Right. Right. That's
Um,
crazy.
Sometimes Dan likes to pull the thermal out, which means I now have to watch the thermal too, or
Right.
or we'll set up a static cam, so that's its own 30 minutes
Yep.
that's running now. So it all adds up,
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
and my little MacBook Pro does all the work.
Wow.
Nice. So it's a pretty important role for Larry. I'm gathering. So yeah, that's kind of crazy. That's a lot of stuff to go through. I don't know.
It can be.
I don't know if I would have the patience to do a lot of that. I mean, I do a little editing for just my promos and my videos, and I do it all on my phone. But it's couple hours tops, and I'm okay with that. But I don't know if I could sit in front of a computer for hours on end.
Days.
Days, yeah.
Days. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
it gets exhausting.
Right.
It's something to where you could very easily burn yourself out on it if you don't process it correctly.
Yes.
Right.
There's a lot of times where, because what we do, we try to film around 10-ish sessions for every investigation.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is we basically reserve the building what you as the average investigator could reserve. So if that's a 4-hour slot, then we're there for 4. If it's a 6-hour, we're there for 6. Over the course of 4-6 hours, you go out, you film for 10 to 15 minutes, you come back, change gears, go out, come back, and then you end up with 10 or so sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have to compile that all into what's usable and what's not.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So obviously nothing is like pre-planned.
Right.
It's all live action. If nothing happens in that session, well, then we just don't use it because nothing happened.
Yep.
Right.
Other times you get sessions where it's like, okay, we had so much happening throughout the night, but I only have this much of a window to fit it in.
Yeah.
So what has to go?
Right. Oh,
So-
that'd be a hard decision to make.
It can be. And then that's where Dan comes in, because I'll be like, hey, we've got 75 minutes worth of investigation and I got to clean up like 30 of it. What are we doing here?
Yep.
So as much as I do a lot of the stuff on the computer, we use what do we use? We use the Google Drive, we use YouTube, we use Facebook. I'm always sending him stuff. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? I think it's safe that we could lose this because whatever happened in this session also happened previously in the night,
Right.
trying to fit this window that we're trying to get this episode in.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But so far it's turned out pretty good.
It seems to work. I mean, you guys have a really good, thing going here. And Dan, I wanted to ask you, how hard was it or how easy was it to come up with some of these places to investigate?
Well, some of them, like in season 1, there's a big story about season 1 that nobody knows, and I'm just going to spill the beans right here.
Okay,
we had
We
had 5 episodes for season 1 done and shipped. Natalie had them.
Okay.
And one of the people that were in the episodes decided, nah, I'm not signing off. I'm not going to do a likeness.
Oh, no.
Larry and I literally had to scramble. So the episodes you see in season 1, we shot all 6 of those within 6 weeks' time.
Holy
Wow.
Planned, shot, edited, and turned them around in 6 weeks.
That's crazy.
It was so stressful.
But, we had a deadline. We had just signed on with Natalie. And now I'm going to tell you guys, there's nobody better in the paranormal than Natalie Jones, because she has treated us so well. Yeah. She has given Expedition Entity a home on Paraflix and made us part of the family. And I can't say enough about her and her patience. And when that happened, she knew that was beyond our control.
Right.
She didn't hold it against us. She said, hey, guys, we'll just push the premiere of Expedition Entity off if we need to. And we're like, no, Natalie, we told you we would have episodes by this date, and we're going to have them. And we did.
Wow.
And
cool.
I'm not going to sit there and say we weren't both a bit punchy, because we were.
Well, you got to think, like, some of those episodes happened like one day and then the next day. Like, it was 2 episodes in one weekend. And and like when you use the dowsing rod, you get kind of drained. Well, on the second episode, sometimes Dan's like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, come on, we got to go. Come on. Just do it.
It gets rather draining. And the thing is, in season 1, it was just Larry and I.
Yeah.
Right.
That was it.
Yeah. Steve was in the first episode, but that was one we'd already filmed. And,
we had already filmed it.
This other person wasn't in that episode, so we could keep that one.
Awesome.
Right.
The remaining 5 was.
I'm just curious. I mean, not to name any names. I just wanted to say, for somebody to not want their likeness in that, I just don't get
strange.
it. I mean, yeah, that's just.
And for whatever reason, and I'm not going to judge anybody. It is what it is, and I get it, whatever. But it came right down at the wire where we were getting ready to go, and it wasn't the greatest. But you know what? Things happen. It is what it is.
Maybe it happened that way for a reason,
Right? Because I think that the episodes we put out were better than the episodes we had shot anyway.
100%.
So
there you go.
100%. Well, not only that. I mean, my assumption is that person just didn't want to do the paranormal anymore.
Okay.
Like they were done with it, which is fine, because before me and Dan started this back up in 2015, I was done with it.
Yeah.
So we all get that way sometimes.
Yep.
So it's better off to where they're not in a video that they didn't want to be involved with anymore.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, now we're 2 years past that. We have a first season where the stuff looks better than what we originally had. Everyone that's in it wants to be in it, and it all worked out great.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I mean, that's just having something that you put your heart and soul into and have it work out like that in the end is important. You know what I mean? So
100%.
Yeah.
Dan and I are very much, if you want to be here, then you are more than welcome to be here. If it's not the time, you don't want to do it anymore, then we get it. It's a huge commitment. So if Steve all of a sudden was like, hey man, my work's not going to let me do this anymore. All right. Well, then, you got my number. When your work's more forgiving, let us know.
Which, I have to say about Steve, I met and I knew Steve before I ever met Larry. And Steve and his mom used to follow my original team, Small Town Paranormal, and I met Steve at a fundraiser that we did. And Steve, Stevie would show up to everything. His mom, who he lost last year, so God rest her soul, she was a great lady. They were at everything. So when we decided to start doing a show and things like that, well, number one, it only made sense to bring Steve onto the team because he was there more than some of the team members were. Number two, he's a great investigator. Steve isn't scared of anything, and nothing turns him off paranormal. I mean, if you tell him, this is the room where demonic things happen, Steve will be the first to go, well, I'll go in there.
There at Broadhead Manor, there's the janitor's quarters, which most people, if you mess with the janitor, he'll mess with you back. And it's not a good time for the person that's alive. Steve, fully knowing the janitor only wants to be asked like 5 questions, then he's done with you. He's like, oh, I'll go talk to him. And the janitor loves him.
Really?
They're like best friends. In the episode, the janitor said his name 7 times.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
He was in there for like, what was it, Dan? Like 15 minutes. And we're like, should we go check on Steve?
I think we let him go. I think we let him go totally for like 25 minutes. And we radioed him, which you can't hear. Hey, we're coming to get you. And he doesn't even, because he's having such an intense conversation with the spirit. He doesn't even notice that we radioed him. And he doesn't notice anything's over until Larry and I walk in and say, hey man, it's over. It's time to go. And
so the one place where like no one is supposed to be friends with the spirit, Steve is.
Steve is. That's fantastic. So that leads me into this question of, okay, so how did you get the team that you have now?
Well, Dan, aside from me, basically recruited everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, Stevie and Larry and I worked together in the Ghost Hunter Dan Norvell project. when we were still doing residential investigations and stuff like that. And I just kind of got tired of the team stuff, guys. Well, it's not that. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I got a call tonight and somebody was having a problem and there were kids involved, I'd be the first one to be there.
Right.
But I've also learned, I've been doing this since 1997. I've also learned that sometimes when we go trotting into a house with all of our equipment, we make a livable situation unlivable really quick. And then we're leaving at midnight and going, well, we'll see you later. And now they're left to deal with it. And it's now upset because they called us in.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes maintaining the status quo is the best course of action. And Larry and I decided, when we were still doing investigations before we even started shooting Expedition Entity, if it's not emergent and there's not kids involved to where, or, something violent or volatile to where these people need help, I don't go trotting into people's houses anymore.
Right. Yeah, I don't either.
Residentials are hard.
80% of the time you make it worse.
Well, yeah, I would. Yeah, that's why I pretty much gave up that whole doing investigations for private residences and stuff like that. I just, I'll do buildings and businesses and stuff like that. But I just, when you bring the family aspect into the fold like that, I mean, there's so many different variables that things can go wrong, and
absolutely.
I mean, and there's things that can go right too. But I mean, it's kind of like you're opening yourself up to a lot of what could, what ifs or what could happen. And,
well, and guys, 99% of the stuff, you can handle with a phone call. And if you just give the family the tools that they need to help make it, because you guys know as well as we do, everybody thinks that when they call a paranormal team, that 5 hours later they're leaving with the smoke and traps. And that's not the way it goes. That spirit is not leaving if it doesn't want to leave. I mean, you can bind them and get them out of there, but that doesn't always mean that that's going to stay that way. And if they become unbound and come back, now they're really ticked off.
Right.
Well, and you could also be binding somebody's sweet old grandma too.
Right. Yeah. Right. Especially
if
you don't, like I've said this before, that there's paranormal teams are kind of like a dime a dozen. I mean, it's not to say anything bad against anyone. It's just the fact that the paranormal field itself has been, as of late, I think, has been oversaturated, just like YouTube's been oversaturated with content that nobody's ever even heard of. And there's a lot of people that want to make these teams, and some want the popularity, some just want to help people, and some, but they're not going to know just because of the fact that there's so many, I mean, there's so many great investigators that nobody's never even heard of, that if you had a really serious problem in, let's say, a business that you owned, and, to find that person, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. You know what I mean? I mean, they're everywhere, but what are you going to get?
Well, and there's so many investigators that a lot of these places, I think a lot of the spiritual activity is actually dropping because every single weekend is 2 or 3 teams. Just, I mean, these spirits are still people. They're going to be like, no, dudes, I'm done with this. I'm moving.
Absolutely.
Well, and then you also have some of these teams that, are crossing spirits without the owners knowing, without anyone knowing, and all of a sudden,
and that's not cool.
Obviously, if a spirit's stuck there and they want to be crossed, you should cross them.
Right.
But you should probably let the person that owns the building know.
Right.
Because if you don't do it correctly, you could make things worse.
Right. And that's why I've said that too, where I've been in a place where I've actually, you kind of like ask, what do you want us to do if we find activity here? You give them that option, the owner, to say, okay, I don't want it here anymore, or you know what, it's fine. If it's not malicious, I don't care. And then you just leave it be, and I've had to do that a couple times,
And I'm always just there for science reasons. So, for me, it's more of a research project than it is So I would like for them to hang out so I can get more data.
Sure.
Right.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So that's how Steve came onto the team. Dan, do you want to talk about how we picked up Jen?
Yeah.
I want to make sure Jen doesn't get left out.
No, I wasn't going to leave Jen out. For a long time, and it was Larry and Steve and I in season 2, and the other concept that we brought when we went to Paraflix with the show, instead of, because we did 5 or 6 episodes on YouTube that are still out there floating around of Expedition Entity. Mm-hmm. But we wanted to bring the concept of, if we're going to a building or a location that a team frequents or whatever, have 1 or 2 of their people with us, and kind of spread the wealth so people hear about them and what they do and things like that, and showcase the location as well. So that when we went to Broadhead Manor in season 1, Bill investigated with us, and oftentimes the people who are either the owners or the people who take care of the buildings do go with us. And in a lot of shows, you do not see that. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, guys. Those are the people that experience it. Those are the people that are living it. Sure. Makes sense to have them with you, because those spirits are more apt to talk to them than they are to us.
Right. You're strangers in there, and you're in their house. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's worked out real well for us. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. Mm-hmm. Now I will talk about Jen. I had been watching. I had told Larry we need to bring somebody on to make a bigger cast. Mm-hmm. And Larry's like, well, you and I and Steve are doing well as it is, and blah, blah, blah. I think we can carry it. And I said, dude, I'm over 50 years old now, and I ain't going to do this forever. And we need to expand our cast. So I had been looking a long time, and lo and behold, I come across this YouTube series called The Wisconsin Files. Mm-hmm. And there's 2 girls on there named Jen and Laura who did a phenomenal job at what they were doing. Mm-hmm. Jen's a great, she does great job filming and editing in her own right. So I was really impressed with what they did and how they did it. And I reached out to Jen. I had watched them for about 4 months and not said anything. And I finally reached out to Jen and said, hey, this is Dan from Expedition Entity. Would you like to do a collab sometime? And Jen got back to me. Oh yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. So it was kind of hard to get together because they had the world's worst luck. We had the world's worst luck at the time.
Yeah.
But finally, Murphy's Law was kicking in big time. Yeah. But finally, we got Jen and Laura to come down, and they were actually part of a documentary that Larry and I were shooting. And they did the investigative part of the documentary, and they knocked it out of the park.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that is when I told Larry, I mean, he had kind of watched them a little bit and stuff. But after they came down and did the interviews and the photo shoots and the investigation with us, Larry was sold.
It was really the interview part for me. Because it's not like we're sitting there with the cell phone on our face going, hey guys, this is Ghost Hunter Dan. We've got a contraption of camera and lights and microphones and all this stuff right in your face filming you. Right. And didn't affect them one bit.
No.
That's awesome.
They were perfectly comfortable in front of the camera, and I'm like, all right, yep, I see what Dan's talking about now.
And unfortunately, when we signed them on, it was Jen and Laura both from the Wisconsin Files.
And it was at the end of season 2.
and the end of season 2, they're both in the episode of the Hanging Bride Bridge. Between season 2 and season 3, Laura's situation changed. She couldn't come to stuff, and life happens, and
Right.
this.
Yep.
I think, guys, and I'm going to say this, and I don't want to sound crappy saying it, but I'm going to say it. People think that this is our life. This is just something we do.
Right.
My life as a dad, I'm the father of 2 kids, and then I'm a full-time corrections officer. That's my life and my career.
Yeah,
right.
Laura had a very demanding job.
The paranormal is just something we do. And
Right.
when we talked to Laura and she said, things in my life have changed, the dynamics of my availability have changed. We parted ways as friends, and we chose to part ways, but always with the option of, Laura, when things work out, if you want to come back, let us know. And if we have a spot available, but so going into season 3 with, because it was going to be Jen and Laura and I, and you would see a lot more of Jen and Laura's investigating than you would mine, because we were kind of trying to get it set up to where Dan's not going to have to be in front of the camera so much anymore. But going into season 3, we were kind of, Dan and Jen are going to have to carry the show now, and but come to find out, Jen and I investigate very well together. When Jen and I are investigating, she can almost finish my sentences. It's very uncanny. It's crazy.
Right.
But I love investigating with Jen. And when I started investigating with Jen, Larry and I have investigated together for a long time. Steve and I have investigated for a long time. Jen comes along, and she's been with us as a cast member for a little over a year now. It's like she's been there forever. So
right.
Actually, it's a year in May, so we're not even at a year yet.
Oh, not even at a year.
It already feels like forever, though.
Right.
It does. Well, and I think that feeling is there because she fit in so well.
Right. You just know a good fit when you see it.
Right.
Yep. Jen's a great investigator in her own right. She did not need us in any way, shape, or form. We needed her worse than she needed us.
There's scenarios where you need a strong female investigator.
Sure.
Yeah.
You could have spirits that will only talk to females. They will not talk to men, period. You can have little kids. They're more comfortable with women, especially moms. She fit that role. And we had an investigation to where she was able to communicate with the female spirit way better than we could.
Right.
So it's like, okay, Jen, keep going. Just keep going.
Just keep doing your thing.
You're doing it. Great. I'm just going to turn the camera this way. You do you.
Yeah. Right.
So,
that's awesome that you guys, have that ability to connect with people like that, like with Jen, and, the things that you guys have been accomplishing. And now let me say, talk a little bit about some of these locations that you've gone to. Is there places that you've gone to out of state, or have you just pretty much been within the confines of where you're around, or how far do you actually travel, I should say?
Well, we're willing to travel if I can get the time and if we can get the funding. The problem is, we're finding out is the farther you want to travel, the more it costs. And
gas, food, hotels.
Yeah.
Right. And I see these teams doing that all the time, and they're not even doing a show, but they're going and spending entire weekends and traveling 12 hours away. And I'll talk to Larry at night and go, I don't know where they're getting the funding to do this.
I wonder that myself.
I can tell you where they get the funding, because they split it amongst 10 people.
Well,
whereas Dan and I, if you're shooting our episode, you really shouldn't have to pay for very much because you're filming for us.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like if you want food, okay, that's one thing, but you shouldn't have to pay for travel if we can help it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want Steve and Jen to have to pay for a hotel room, but right now we can't afford it. So
right.
So do you guys do like
in the hard spot?
Do you guys do like special episodes, or do you have your stuff already pre-planned out? I'm just thinking, because I think there would be a possibility that I could do some cool stuff, as a side episode for you guys, or as a special episode, like a super science, super lab tech type investigation.
For the most part, seasons are planned in advance as much as we can. We try to lock in dates for one, because you got to take off work, and sometimes taking off work can take 6 months in advance. Some of these places like Ashmore Estates, they're booked until December.
Oof. Oh wow,
it's April, and they're booked. So sometimes you got to think really far in advance. But
right.
Outside of our 6 normal episodes, we do other things. For this year, we're focusing on a couple small docs outside of the episodes, but next year during season 3, we're not going to be doing very many docs because we've already got a whole bunch to work on.
Sure.
So extra special stuff, something like that might be in the cards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you guys know how to find me.
I'd be willing to. Well, and also, if it's a location and you want to put a special twist on it the way you do it, that would be really cool to feature in an episode. Or
I'd gladly do it, because I don't know if you guys probably don't know a lot about how I do investigations, but I build all my own equipment. I have lab grade equipment. This is nothing like you guys have ever seen in the ghost hunting world. This is completely different. So, I even have automated EVP sessions and, computer driven sensor boards, where we're recording like 26 different environmental sensors every second and syncing them to video. And, the idea is, for me, was to take as much of the subjectivity out of it as I could. And a computer don't care. It's recording numbers. It's, picking up sensors, and it's just telling you what it sees, and then I'll go back and actually use statistics to compare times. Like, all right, did it actually change the temperature when we told it to change the temperature? Did it interact with the EMF when we told it in an entity to interact with the EMF? And we're not talking just looking for some little bumps on a graph. We're talking putting the data into a statistical engine, saying, yep, with this much probability, this happened, and and stacking the investigations that way. And so it's things that it's never been on film before. It's never, the only thing I film the sensor board with a wide angle camera just to prevent trickery, or if I see a spike, I can check and say, oh, was that just an investigator walked near the equipment? It's that sensitive. I can tell when people are in the room. I can tell where the board is at. I mean, there's all kinds of things that happen. So I record the board, but I'm never in the videos, and I never do any of the stuff. So
when we work with the guest investigator, and any guest, any location, usually we try to lean more on the guest style. So for Broadhead, Jenny Davis was our guest. And Jenny really likes doing the Estes stuff. So we did a little more Estes than we normally do. Just because that's the thing that she enjoys doing. We have an episode coming up. I can't say too much. An episode coming up with another guest where it's very much the same thing. She has her own style of doing things, and we try to incorporate that into the investigation. So with what you're doing, if you were the guest on a location, it would be very much the same thing. If that's your style, then we'll try to film around it. I'll probably have more questions on what I can do, how I can set up, where I can set up. Is my equipment going to interfere with your equipment?
Used to that kind of stuff. I mean, I work in a recording studio. I mean, I'm a computer system admin as my day job, but as one of my side jobs, I actually work in an actual recording studio.
Okay.
And so, you know, I know the AV stuff well. I know the cameras well. I know how everything works.
Nice.
I don't film my stuff because I'm not normally out for entertainment purposes. I'm out because, you know, I saw this anomaly once. I want to see if I can find it again in another location, or I saw some statistical data that was cool. And I was like, hey, you know, does this happen everywhere? Let's go hit a couple more locations and do this specific thing. Yeah. You know, but the equipment is stuff that nobody's ever seen before, really.
Yeah.
And, you know, things like the Ghost Citizen Band radio, where you can literally listen you can listen to the EMF. Okay. Not just see it as a bump on your millimeter or something like that, or your K2, but you can literally hear buildings whisper and talk. You can hear, you know, you can even hear a person's mind work. You can't hear their thoughts, but you can actually, when they think harder, you hear more white noise than when they're not, kind of a sound. I mean, so we're talking equipment that nobody ever sees, mainly because I'm not, like I say, normally not in it for any kind of entertainment purposes or to make shows. I don't cut footage. I mean, the only time I look at my video is if I saw something cool in the data and I want to know what it is, you know, and what happened at that exact time. But, you know,
but if he did make a show,
it'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool.
So
I mean, I'm not going to speak for Dan, but you know, for myself, I'd love to have you on an episode because I'm very interested in this stuff.
I'm in Michigan, so I don't know where you guys work, what your region is.
Northern Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan's not.
You're within 2 hours of me.
Yeah.
I can be in Chicago in 2 hours.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's usually Dan and I, if we can keep it to a 3-hour drive for us, the two of us, a hotel's not required.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
I can't say that for Steve and Jen, you know,
right.
Depending on how their situation is, they might need a hotel, but for 3 hours, if I leave at 2 a.m. and I get home at 5, I can make that work.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Right.
And
once you get past 3 hours, it's like, I could do it, but do I want to do it?
Understood.
Right.
So
what are Dan's thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Just hearing him talk, I'm wondering when he wants to do this.
Yeah, right.
I'm intrigued.
Go ahead and shoot Dan a message after the show.
There you go. Yeah, most definitely. You see, and this is why we do what we do. I mean, you know, because of the fact that me and Shane have been doing this now going on 3 years, you know, we ran into some fantastic people and that want to actually, you know, pick our brains individually. You know, there's people that want to talk with Shane. There's people that want to talk with me.
We're like the yin and yang. I'm the science. He's the spiritual.
Yep.
We played the whole show that way.
I always send everybody to Dan. Just go talk to Dan.
Right.
I got to edit video. Dan will talk to you
because I have such a way with people.
You're great, Dan.
You're great, Dan.
We'll have good times.
Right. So I mean, there's moments like these that this is why we do it, you know, and we talk about the paranormal, but we also talk about people in general, you know, and you guys, you know, talking about how you know, acquired Jen and even Laura and that whole story, you know, that was important for people to know that, you know, these people just don't come out of the woodwork and say, oh, you know, it was like, you know, 1 minute we're like, yeah, let's try this. But you really kind of researched who you were having on your team.
Sure.
You know, and you at this day and age, at this point, you know, with so many different paranormal teams and trying to form this and do that, you kind of got to do your homework. You know, you really need to. Yeah.
Sure.
The thing is, guys, and it's really to boil it down in its simplest form is right now, everybody is starstruck and they all want to be famous.
Yep.
See, I don't ever have that much care for that.
Yeah. I mean, it has been terrible. Jay, I think you stopped by when I did my last live.
I did. Yeah. Every time you're on the side of the road, I'm right there, man.
I kept it pretty mellow compared to how I was really
tame.
feeling it.
Yeah, pretty tame.
But I still came out, guys, I'm a corrections officer. I'm in a job to where I can tell the client to go screw off if I really want to, and I can get away with that.
Right.
But I've been doing that for 17 years, and you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar.
Oh yeah.
With detainees, all they want is respect and to be treated like a human being, and that's what I try to do. In the 17 years I've been there, I've never had an issue with any of those guys because I treat them like, hey, you know what? I could go home and have a fight with my wife and be sitting right next to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the concept I always keep in the back of my head is, just because I'm in a uniform with a badge and you're in a different color uniform doesn't mean you're not still a human being.
Sure.
So, but in saying all that, I sometimes, and Larry can vouch, I got a very thin filter. And
I'm good with that.
Sometimes the shit will start flying and Ghost Hunter Dan becomes asshole Dan. And people don't want to, the problem is, guys, is people don't want to hear the truth. But here's the truth. Yeah. People are forming teams left and right. You guys just said it earlier.
Yep.
And some of them, I'm all for new teams, and I'm all for, hey, if you're willing to learn and listen to the guys who've been doing it for a while, and not just get starstruck and want to think you're going to get on the Discovery Channel next year. That's the kind of team I like to see go out there and grow. And if they get a big following on what they're doing, great.
Right.
I'm all for that.
Right.
Sure.
It's the teams that go out there and start the animosity with other teams and
or the individual. Yeah.
That's bullshit.
And that's what I've always said. And Larry and I took this approach about 5 years ago. Number one, if people start any crap on our page, they're deleted and blocked. It's not up for debate. It's not up for, I'm sorry. I don't care how sorry you are. You're gone. I'm not going to put up with it. Bye.
Right.
And then the other thing is that we don't post evidence. We post what we feel was an experience we had. If you want to believe it. If you don't want to believe, don't believe it. I'm not here to make the skeptic a believer, the believer a skeptic. This is what we experienced. This is what we caught, and we're throwing it out there. You be the judge.
Right.
That's it.
And that's the way it should be. And I think that's, it's just, people could say, hey, I got this great evidence. It may be evidence to you. I mean, and it may be, but you're still going to have to, once you put it out there, there's going to be somebody that says, I don't think that you caught anything.
Right.
You're going to have to have to take that criticism and turn around and say, you know what? Everybody's entitled to their opinion on what they see. I can't prove it without a doubt, but I could say this is the evidence that I found. And it's kind of just the way people word it nowadays. And if they're offended by, I don't think that's what you think it is, then leave it alone. Let it be. Take it with a grain of salt and be like, you know what? Maybe he's right, but I still stand by what I think, that I have evidence. Okay, that's fine.
And that's part of the reason that I got into the investigation part of the stuff was because people kept saying, oh yeah, I saw this, I felt this, I heard this, I da-da-da. And it's like now when I do an investigation, I have everybody, have an accurate watch and a scrap of paper. Every time you have a feeling, an emotion, a thing that was important to you and you think you got something, write down just the time. I don't care what it is. And maybe a note what it is. Because then I will go back to the data that I'm collecting every second from all these sensors all over the place. And I'll collaborate. Hey, at the exact time that so-and-so said they felt the room get cold, I can go check. Hey, did the room get cold at 9:55 and 33 seconds?
Right.
Did that happen?
Boy, what I would have loved to have you when we did the Freeport Masonic Temple.
Oh, yeah. That would be cool. I'd love to go there.
I can't say anything about it yet, damn it. But let me just say, you would have been a great fit.
And that's my purpose is to help others do their job the best.
Right.
Because if I can collaborate and say, oh yeah, you felt it, so-and-so said I felt it get cold in this room at this particular time. And I go back and look and, oh, there's a 3-degree drop over 20 seconds. Okay. That person said it. I give them 10 times more credit than somebody said, they say something and then there's nothing.
Sure.
And you would think that this doesn't happen often, but it does. And that's why I tell people, spend the 5 seconds it takes to make a note of the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I know it's annoying.
That's a great idea.
Piece of paper and have a watch.
It is.
Yep.
But when I go back and say, hey, my sensor board saw the thing that you saw, now you have something that you can actually brag about. You can say, hey, look.
Yeah.
I saw or felt this thing.
I have the data to prove it.
And this computer logged it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So there you go.
Right. And
that is true that there's so much equipment where it's the flashing light and then that's it. There's no follow-up.
Correct. Don't get Shane started on the flashing light.
Oh yeah, I don't even start me there.
Listen, when you're behind the camera, the flashing lights are great.
Well, and my board has
unfortunately, because it's a show and we only have an hour to show what we got, we go against that grain. You're either going to take our word or you're not, because we can't show how much we did to try to disprove that flashing light because
I agree.
We don't put that in the show.
I'm used to this.
Right.
12 hours of recording is an hour of music.
Right. Yeah. Right. So that is the testimony of a real, investigator, going through the motions of trying to debunk everything. A lot of people, they didn't get into this, to this paranormal and everything to prove. I mean, a lot of it was in the beginning that I recall years ago, it was to disprove. It was to debunk, and it was
that's how I got into the paranormal. I was on a website, bachelorsgroveforums.com. Wow. And people would send photos and videos, and I would constantly be like, "That's how that was edited."
Oh, I do that all the time because I'm a photographer, an amateur photographer.
Right. So finally, someone's like, "No, I'm tired of you shitting on all of our stuff. We're gonna take you out somewhere." So they took me to Scott Mansion in Joliet, Illinois, which Hiram B. Scott was one of the original patent holders for like 8 strands of barbed wire. There's like 300 strand types. He had 8 of them. And he apparently made a lot of money. So we went and investigated it, and I couldn't explain anything that happened to me. And then 4 months later, I meet this guy in the middle of a cornfield in a cemetery with 30 plots, and now I'm here.
See how it goes.
We've been married ever since.
Right, there you go.
I know.
And and you met in a cemetery. There you go, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now. Sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
Oh no! For people who don't know, I have Dan Norvell and Larry Eissler from Expedition Identity here, and we're still having a great time talking about the paranormal and Expedition Entity, and these guys are fantastic. So to continue, I wanted to ask you, Dan, how does your family feel about what you do? I guess that's a question for both of you guys.
Well, you go ahead and go first, Dan.
Well, my daughter, she's 22 years old. She was actually in an episode with us in season 2.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. She loves it. My son, who's 17, he thinks it's cool that Dad's on TV. Mm-hmm. Could care less.
Yeah.
Other than that,
your brother was into it with you.
I started out with my younger brother and my younger sister.
Yeah.
And actually, it was when I started doing this back in '97, it was me and my little brother. Mm-hmm. And we went all over with the big old camera, the VHS tape that you slid into the camera, and we went out. Yep. And we caught some really cool. I mean, one of the first shadow figures I ever caught was on that stinking camera. Cool. But we'd go out to cemeteries and we'd go out and do things all the time and run the old tape recorders and
Oh
That's
yeah.
cool.
You know, we would do that stuff, and so it was really a family affair. Now, my three sisters and my brother, they still kind of watch what we do. None of them are involved in it really anymore.
Sure.
You know, my mom and dad, my dad was a big skeptic.
Sure.
You know, thankfully I still have my mother and father. You know, but he really enjoys watching what we do, and you know, he's like, hey, I can't explain some of the stuff you guys are catching, and
Right.
Your dad was
It's
a
just
skeptic, but he has a Bigfoot
cool.
mold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he used
That's
to
cool.
he used to be a Bigfoot hunter when he was younger.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's
That's
cool.
cool.
Yeah, he was a cryptid
He's
guy.
got a big old foot.
It was from the cast that Roger Patterson took when him and Gimlin caught the famous Bigfoot film. He has
Wow.
a
Cool.
master cast from that film site.
Oh wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he met those guys. But you know, as far as my family goes, they've always been very supportive. We've got a lot of friends that aren't into the paranormal that have been very supportive. So for me, it's been, you know, a pretty good experience at home. Until it's not been, you know, when something follows you home, and we'll talk about that after Larry.
Yeah.
My family, my son is 14 and he's just now starting to get interested in it. He keeps bugging me like, when can I be on an episode? I'm like, do you really want to investigate, or do you just want to be on
an
TV?
episode? Yeah.
Is that all you want? Like, he's like, but Dan's daughter was in one. Like, I don't care. Come on, be truthful. But he's starting to get interested. I went up to Broadhead Manor. Bill Walter, who's in chat right now, I went up there with my son and two of his friends, and just kind of went like, hey, this is a safe environment. You can investigate here. And they all want to go back. So I did good, I guess.
Cool.
Okay. So my son's interested. I don't know if he'll ever investigate, maybe, but maybe one day. My parents are supportive of me doing all this. They were a little skeptical at first, especially because I'd come home at like 5 a.m. from Dan's house. And they're like, where have you been all night? Now I get home at 3 o'clock and my mom's like, why are you home so early?
That's awesome.
But, you know, now that they've seen what we've done and what we're doing now, everyone's extremely supportive. My sisters, my aunt and uncle, and you know, everyone. But I was in the Army for 10 years and I'm medically retired now. That whole side of my family, the military side, all them brothers and sisters, were a lot harder to swing over to this side.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of them still probably don't even know I do this. There are a few of them that I have since invited into this side of my life, and they're all very interested. They don't want to do it, but they like watching me do it.
That's cool.
And I'm pretty happy with that. So I'll gladly take that. And then Steve in chat said his wife is a total skeptic and his kids all want to be involved, which we did investigate with Steve's kids one time.
Yeah.
So we did take them to, actually it was Maple, which is one of our spots for season 1.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I feel like the more we get into this whole production thing and people see like the work that goes into it and what we're putting out, I feel like it's becoming more accepting.
Sure. That makes sense.
And then people are like, wow, that's actually really cool that you do that.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks.
Well,
right.
One thing I want to say is I can't see chat for some reason. I don't know. So I don't know who's here, but
I'm watching on my other monitor.
Bill being here, Bill Walter, who we're all going to be at Broadhead Manor next weekend, and it'll be cool to meet you guys. But you know, Bill's done in the time that he's taken Broadhead Manor and called Larry and I, you know, however many years ago, I just want to say, you know, not only the location, but Bill himself. If you go to Broadhead Manor and you investigate and you're respectful, you won't be let down.
Right.
Bill's the one who really makes that investigation special.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we had talked off the air about him too. So yeah.
Yeah, Bill, I'll tell you, and I'm not just saying this because I don't even know if he's still in chat or not, but
yeah, you know, still here.
Bill has become a friend, and you know, half the time I go up to Broadhead, I honestly don't even care about investigating as much as I care about just sitting and bullshitting with Bill.
Yeah,
right.
There you go.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, for example, we're vending for the con. Yeah. And there's a vendor night, so the vendors can investigate the building.
Yeah.
And I've told everybody, including Bill, and I'm like, I have no plans to investigate. So I'm gonna sit in the gym and I'm gonna hang out with Bill. And if somebody goes, hey Larry, could you come here because you filmed here before? You might have a connection we want to exploit. Sure, I'll come and investigate with you guys. But otherwise, I plan to sit in the gym and just hang out.
Right.
Now, if they ask me, I'm going to say, I'm talking to Bill.
Well,
yeah.
Dan's the sociable one out of us two. Believe that.
Right. Yeah, that was my next question. Who's the sociable guys or people in here? Is it Dan or is it Larry or is it Jen or Steve?
Wow, 100% Jen.
Okay.
I would say Jen and I probably have the biggest socially with people. Well, because you got to think now, Jen, you know, when she first came on and signed to be part of Expedition Entity, she said, well, do you want me to leave the Wisconsin files? And this, no, you keep doing your own thing. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And she also does some stuff with Justin, who's also on Paraflix with Visually Creeped. Mm-hmm. And we think that's great. You know, I want Jen to do anything and everything she can.
It just gives me more stuff to
share. Right.
Now, here's the thing. And there's people out there that want you to share their stuff. I don't even share our stuff.
Right.
That much.
Right. We had that discussion too.
Yeah.
I'm not on, you know, I'm on Facebook when I'm on. Jay, you remember how many lives I used to do? Lives are few and far between. I don't do them very often. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is because, you know, we're losing people at work. My job's becoming more demanding. I need to be there more often. And when I work a 12-hour shift, being around the most negative people in the world, I don't want to come and try to spread positivity on a Facebook Live.
Right.
Understood.
So
right.
Yeah. I tend to, you'll see me like your guys' stuff. You'll see me, you know, thumbs up it and stuff. Right. But I don't leave a lot of comments other than if it's somebody's birthday, I'll say happy birthday.
Right.
Like I said, and even Larry's told me, dude, you don't even share our stuff. Yeah, you're right. I don't. Because I don't have time for that shit.
I have to share everything and tag him in it. Otherwise, it won't show up on his feed.
Yeah, it won't show up on his profile.
So that's how I make sure our stuff gets on his profiles, because I tag him.
Right. Yeah, I try to share as much as I can, but like you said, you know, we all have our own jobs and our families and stuff like that. You know, I can't always be, you know, scrolling through Facebook. Number one, my wife would not be happy, and number two, it's straining on my eyes. You know, I mean, it's just be on my phone all the time. I mean, it's bad enough as much as I'm on my phone as it is. You know, so I mean, it's just it's not healthy. You know, it's like you got to stand, you know, look up and watch the world a little bit. And,
it's a strain.
You know,
Facebook lately, you guys, has been a strain on my psyche.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For everybody.
For everybody.
You're not. You're not
alone on that.
Everybody equally.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, and that whole Destination Fear, Ghost Adventures drama bubble, like sucked the life out of the paranormal for like 3 weeks too.
Yeah,
that definitely didn't help.
No, you don't want to know what I think.
No, I didn't even. I haven't even know about it. So
he doesn't. You don't want to know.
I'll go figure it out later.
It's a big mess.
Yeah. I understand all sides of the argument.
Right.
But man, that just got dragged on and on and
That's
on
terrible.
and
Yeah.
on.
See, I'm not about drama. Facebook
Yep.
or otherwise, I don't do drama.
Yeah.
If they're gonna be a
No.
drama king, I'm out. See ya.
Yeah,
Not my thing.
I don't even do drama with my wife, so I don't do,
It's not
No.
Well, at
worth
least my wife's an investigator, so I don't gotta worry about that part.
Nah.
I have enough drama with the other guy you're talking to, so
Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa!
Nice.
Uh-oh.
Nice.
Fighting words.
he
Wait a
calls me his work wife. There's drama.
Yeah, well, I mean,
If
Oh,
the
yeah.
tiara fits.
Oh,
Ooh.
damn.
stick it
Man,
he's
shit's a flying here, back and forth. I need to duck. Damn, that's awesome.
The problem is when you work so close together, and and I know Jay will stop by in a lot of my lives, or else he'll see him later and comment or something.
Yeah.
I never want to pay Larry a comment or a compliment because
I did
he
see
always
that.
does.
Yeah,
He always
it
does.
sickens me to compliment him on anything.
But every live stream he does.
Yeah.
The other side of the coin is I know how hard he works at it. I know it's a passion of his. Sometimes a little more passion than mine.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm the one who roped him into this ride, so I'll ride it out as long as we
Right.
possibly can.
Right.
But the thing is that, Larry's become part of the family. He's like the little brother that I do have a little brother, but he's like the little brother that none of us got to have. And when my younger brother and sister used to investigate with us, he was like the little brother they never got to have. And if you know me like Larry does, my brother, I give that guy shit from morning till night anytime I see him. And he's no exception. I mean, Larry's not immune
to it. I'm just like, wow, Dan, really?
Yeah.
And
you're not immune to it, Larry.
Wow.
But that therein, I mean, shows that I think of Larry as a little brother. I love him like a little brother.
That's cool.
But being that way also causes a lot of friction sometimes. And
anything you do that's that deep, you're gonna have it. I don't care what.
Yeah.
Well,
and something like ribbing each other from the outside looks like we're like fighting, and it's like, no, we're just making fun of each other.
Right. Right.
Like I just said, Dan wears a tiara, but if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know we're joking.
Right.
I mean, the thing is that, in the paranormal, since we've been doing stuff, we've been in some pretty hairy stuff. I mean, we've done some cleansings and dealt with a couple negative entities that nobody should have to. And, people will either believe it or they don't. We don't film cleansings because of respect for what's going on and how emotional that is. But we, paranormally speaking, we've been to hell and back, and it's it's tough, but things are changing all the time. I'm not getting any younger. Larry and I have a 16-year gap there, so Larry's a lot younger than I am, and
comes with a great story.
And he really he can go and go. Well, me, I'm starting to get to the point to where, Jesus, it's 1:00, man. I need to get out of here because I'm standing here in the next half hour.
The last filming we did, which was way more than what we should have done, and we have since realized
that seems to be a theme.
We filmed for it was an 18-hour day.
Oof.
All in one day. And then I got 4 hours of sleep, and then I had to go and film the next day without Dan.
Well,
so, sometimes you put in a lot more hours than people think you do.
Well, and the bad thing is that I had just gotten over COVID. I was no longer in a spot to where I would give anybody else COVID, but I still felt terrible. And
that's terrible.
We put in an 18-hour day, and I was feeling horrible. And finally, Larry when he packs his equipment away, he does it a certain way. So he doesn't let Steve and I touch it. We can bring it to him and then back away. Well, we had all the stuff back to him, and finally, Doreen said, "Dan, you look horrible. You need to get the hell out of here."
Yep.
And she goes, "I will stay and help Larry pack out." And I took her advice. Looking back, I really probably shouldn't even have been there, but we had to get this done, so I did. Right. I paid for it for the next 2 days.
Oh yeah,
me too.
But but yeah, like he had to shoot the next day, and I could have totally went. And I told him, dude, I'm not going. I
had a photo shoot for our documentary, and then I filmed Bill's commercial for their witchboards, and then I filmed our friends Nat and Elliot.
I love those two.
Yeah, I filmed their YouTube intro shots. So
nice.
I got like 4 hours of sleep and then worked for like 8 hours and then got home and then died. It was a long weekend.
You see that old saying, going through the trenches, there's something to be said for that. And you guys work hard and you guys do a lot of good stuff with this content and, for the show and just being, individually, cool people to talk to, and
appreciate that.
So it's one of those things where, you meet somebody in your life that, you guys like you two can come together and work together and have, share the ideas and stuff and put out good content. It's by design. I don't think that's by coincidence, So.
Well, I think that also extends to Jen and Steve too.
Yeah.
As meticulous and I'll say it, anal as I am, if I put a camera in Steve's hands, I know I'm gonna get usable footage.
Right.
And that's you can't always say that with someone holding the camera.
Ooh, yeah.
If I have Jen in front of the camera, we have our a little bit of an out here, but Dan isn't able to make our last episode for season 3. His work will not let him off. Okay. So we're going to have Jen lead the whole thing without Dan there at all. Okay. I know 110% that Jen's got this.
Yeah.
100%, 110%. And the odds of finding those two people that fit the role they need to fit, what are the odds of that?
Yes.
If it's by design, then it makes more sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
right.
Larry often doesn't say it anymore.
What?
But if he doesn't have somebody in front of the camera that can give him something worth filming, well, now he's just got 10 hours of shit that he can't do anything with.
Yeah,
and a terabyte of footage where I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah, and if you polish a turd, it's still a turd.
Right? Exactly.
You can only polish it so much.
Jen and I have to, as much as I don't want to say actor and actress, we have to be an actor and actress to an extent, even though it's live and what's happening, what you see is what you get. But you still, Jen brings the humanity to the show because you got Steve Wren, who's not scared of anything. You got Larry, who's an ex-soldier. Before I was a corrections officer, I was a firefighter for 16 years and a paramedic in Chicago 6 of those years.
Wow.
Larry and I don't jump and get scared at shit.
No.
We're very boring to watch at times because
one of my favorite clips is we're at Broadhead and something is moving Dan's arm and you can see his hand kind of do this and he looks over and goes, "Quit touching me." And then he comes right back into the session.
That's great.
Whereas, some, not everybody, but some people go, what the hell's going on? I'm just like, "Quit touching me," and kept going. Because,
just put in chat, I like watching Larry tell Dan, "Do it again."
Yeah.
Well, and I'm telling you guys, and if we shoot an episode with you, which I'm really hoping we can.
Yeah.
You know what? It's not even hope. We're going to make it work.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it'll be great.
But here's the thing. You're going to see Larry tell me to do that stuff time and time again. And you're going to tell when I get punchy because I start screwing up on purpose just to piss him off.
Oh,
That's awesome.
And that's how I end up with a terabyte.
right.
Yeah.
It's like, damn it, Dan, there's 3 cameras rolling right now.
Yeah. I will say
everything.
I will say everything perfect. And at that last line, I screw it up just because I know he's going to say it again, and it pisses him off.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I have to work with.
Yeah, see? Well, it's that time, folks. With this hour and 15 minutes is actually flown by quite a quick.
Yeah, it's been
quick,
great.
so,
You guys are awesome.
It seemed like we've only been talking
time.
5 minutes.
Yeah. So I want to thank our guests, Dan and Larry. You guys are fantastic, and I want to thank our people in the chats, everybody who watched. Why don't you tell people, the wonderful people that are watching and going to be listening soon, where they can find you and what platform you're on?
Well, you can find us at Broadhead Manor next weekend on Saturday at Spirits in the Spring with many other people.
Me and Shane will be there with you.
You guys are going to be there. It's going to be a really cool time. I'm looking forward to meeting everybody. Other than that, you can find Expedition Entity only on Paraflix. Our new episode of the Scout Camp just premiered last night, so go check it out.
Yep.
You can find us on Facebook at Expedition Entity. You can find us on Instagram at Expedition Entity, Ghost Hunter Dan, Ghost Hunter Larry. You can find us on Twitter at Ghost Hunter Dan, but don't send me messages on Twitter because I don't jump on Twitter very often.
I have it.
We have a TikTok, and we've done some kind of cool little shorts on there.
Yep. The most important thing, though, is we have a link tree that collects all those things together.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So I have that on my Twitter. That works. That really works.
Yep. It's linktr.ee / Expedition Entity. Super easy.
Okay.
And you'll find all of our Instagram links there. You'll find our Facebook. You'll find our merch store, our direct Paraflix link, our IMDb. Right now, the episode 1 trailer is on there, but I'm going to be making a trailer for episode 3, so that'll probably change. But all the links that you need to find for us are on there.
Okay. Yeah, and when I upload the audio file for everywhere after we get done here, you want to send me that link tree, and I will put it in the comments or the description of this video. And so when they go to play the video or download the video, they can click on Linktree.
Yeah,
and it'll be everywhere. It'll be iHeartRadio, Apple, wherever.
Nice.
So
yeah.
That's one thing I like about audio is that it's nice being everywhere, so people can actually hear and see instead of just being on Facebook and YouTube and
I've been listening to podcasts lately, guys, in my car and stuff.
Yeah.
And seeing everybody is always great, but just to be able to hear it, like you're saying, it's nice to just drive and just listen to people talk.
Yeah, most definitely.
I'm a teaching assistant at the university I'm going to for my grad degree, and I have an hour drive every day to and from the university. And Spotify podcasts and my little special playlist have gotten me through that drive so many times.
Right.
But like sometimes I'll listen to a YouTube podcast and they do stuff knowing they're on video, and it's like, well, I don't get it because I'm not watching it.
Right.
And it's like, I want to watch it, but I don't want to die. So I'm just gonna let this go. Whatever.
Right. So you guys can also check, the app that I use, and I use quite a bit, is called Good Pods, and it's really easy interface. My show, or our show, is on there. All the stuff that we've created is on there. It's like 38 episodes I got uploaded. This will be uploaded to it tonight as well. And I like to throw this in there too, because the fact that they have a grading system out of the most popular TV film interviews out of 100. Our show is number 3.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm actually
congratulations.
I'm one ahead of Bill Maher's podcast.
Wow.
That is cool as hell.
Yeah. So it may be something small potatoes in some people's eyes, but I giggled when I saw that. I'm like, I'm okay with that, you know. So we've done quite a bit of stuff on here, and it was about time that some people actually really heard us. And so I thought that, you know, I have to thank quite a few people for helping me to get that out there. So, you know, it's a good feeling. So again, this has been fun and extremely knowledgeable. I got to know a little bit more about what you guys do, which is fascinating. So, and a lot of my listeners will too. So,
well,
again,
so
I want to
you don't always get to know like what happens behind the scenes when you shoot this stuff.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
You get to watch for the hour that we put up, but it's like, hey, you know, that interview you watched for 10 minutes. Yeah, that was an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Other than talking to you guys, the coolest part of this whole thing is I am so intrigued about the way you guys approach stuff. I can't wait.
You'll see things you never saw before.
I can't wait to go and see how that's done. Because I'm just blown away.
Learn new things. Your toys. I want to see all your toys, Shane.
Yeah,
you'll see.
Shane has Shane's brain is beyond without dispute. I mean, I'm serious. I give him a lot of credit because of the fact that it's just sometimes if I ever have a tech question or something that I want to, can we take this frequency and use this to communicate with this? And he'll be able to answer me.
Dan,
logically.
Ask him about the tuning fork.
I'm not going to do that here. You know what? I'll message you. I'm off the next 2 days. And because we kind of had a tuning fork theory, and I still think it's sound, but you may be able to give me a couple answers that I need.
Excellent.
Oh yeah. He'll be able to tell you about that. All right.
I'm excited.
Love it.
All right, guys. So I want to thank you again. I want to thank our viewers and our soon-to-be listeners. And this is going to be episode 7, I think. So Studio 6 Paranormal Productions and Podcast. This is Jay Hill and my co-host Shane Feek. Thank you, Larry and Dan, and we will bid you adieu.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
Have a great night.